Well, kia ora. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Hi. As they've kindly given me a very generous introduction, my name is Blair MacDonald, and tonight I've just got 7 minutes to share with you a little bit about my life. Now, that is a really tough brief, and if I've had to sit back and summarise my life into 3 categories, it'd look like this: husband to my dear wife Rachel, father of our 3 children, and a detective in the police. I also wanted to add a 4th category for an avid keen mountain biker and cyclist, but I thought that might upset category number 1, so we just parked that one up for now. But what's really important, what's the most important thing sitting over the top of all of that is my faith in Jesus. My ongoing prayer to myself is that through all areas of life, I will try and apply my faith in real ways to be a better person, to be more like Jesus. Now, don't get me wrong, I am far from perfect and regularly stumble. But what I wanted to share with you was just a brief story from each of those 3 areas on how being a Christian helps me to navigate through life. So, category 1. I've been married now for almost 12 years to my long-suffering wife, Rachel. In fact, it was under the influence of Rachel and her family that I learnt about Jesus and what it means to have a personal relationship with him. You know, there are so many stories I could share, but one stands out. It was not long after Rachel and I got married, and I was just starting to take a bit of an interest in the whole church thing, and we got invited to join a home group. I think it was maybe the 2nd or 3rd time that we'd attended the home group, and on this occasion, Rach was away with work, so I was at home group on my own. Now, about halfway through the evening, I was doing that classic leaning over the coffee table, scooping up a big amount of dip into a handful of chips, and I felt this hand on my bottom. And then a big old squeeze, and I froze. I was shocked. And as I watched the youth pastor's wife just casually saunter past me and off into the kitchen without saying a word, I froze, sat down and thought, well, I'm a bit new to this whole church home group thing, and how close do home groups really get? Anyway, as it turned out, the youth pastor's wife, as she walked into the kitchen and saw her husband standing there, she also froze, realising it wasn't her husband's bottom that she had just squeezed. So, after some hilarity and a full-scale investigation into the case of confused bottoms, I can reassure you that I've not been inappropriately touched at a home group since. Now, you may be wondering, what on earth is he sharing this for tonight? Well, after a bit of a shaky start, I've been part of a home group with that particular youth pastor and his wife for 10 years now. And the spiritual impact that has come from meeting regularly with a group of other believers on my life has been absolutely huge. To be able to come into a safe place and share your joys and your struggles has been so important in my faith journey. I also value that the other Christians that I have a relationship with, where they can hold me accountable for the decisions I make or the things that I do. It's such a blessing to have people who you can turn to when the going gets tough or you just simply need some advice. So, if you're sitting out there tonight and you're not connected into a home group or life group, I really want to encourage you, strike you into action. When you get home, back to your home church, find the person who's responsible for those and get them to point you in the right direction. Making the time to connect with other believers in an intentional way will grow and develop your faith in amazing ways. Right, area 2. So, having been married almost 12 years, God has really blessed us with 3 incredibly funny, amazing kids. And of course, lots of stories to choose from, but I had something quite humorous happen just this week. So, I was making a couple of fluffies for my oldest, who's 6, and his 2-year-old sister, and they were arguing and fighting over who was going to get the first cup. Now, being a dad who's never one to let a bit of a moral lesson opportunity pass me by, I said, hey, you two, what would Jesus do if he was sitting right here? He would say, look, my dear brother or my dear sister, I will wait. You please take the first cup. Now, my son, Braden, he turned around as quick as anything and said to his sister, Clara, you can be Jesus. So, I had to chuckle, and that wasn't quite how I was anticipating this would go. Now, I don't want to pass myself off as any expert of raising children because, look, I've made so many mistakes with my kids, it's not funny. But what I really wanted to share was, I think it's really helpful for us to bring our faith into everyday situations. Our children often have such simple and uncomplicated beliefs, and we are raising our kids in perhaps the toughest and most challenging times yet. As any parent knows, our children observe us all the time and are often mirror back those habits and practices that we reveal each day. As Christian parents, we have a powerful impact on our children's faith by actively living it out on a daily basis. Now, area 3, a detective. So yeah, I've been in the police 15 years. I know I don't look old enough, thank you. But as you can imagine, over that time, I've had to attend some pretty horrific and difficult things over that time. But as a Christian police officer, I've been given some absolutely incredible opportunities to use my faith in serving those who I deal with in a professional capacity. One story I felt I could share with you all tonight was in relation to a homicide investigation I worked on. During the initial action at the discovery of the body, I was assigned the officer in charge of the body, and basically that means you're there to look after the body, get it back to the mortuary, secure forensic evidence through the full post-mortem examination. Now, in this particular case, the body had been quite badly disfigured, and we were having a really tough time in identifying who the victim actually was. So I spent many hours with the victim at hospital and mortuary conducting different tests and procedures. Once we finally identified who that person was, I was then part of the team who went and visited the family to let them know. And every police officer I know will tell you the one thing that's harder to deal with than dealing with dead people is dealing and supporting and being there for the family when you have to tell them. As we journeyed out to the family that night, I was praying in the car. I said, Lord, please, just may there be a presence, your presence be with us tonight. May you really bless me with an empathetic, loving and caring tone with this family. On arrival, I spoke with the victim's daughter, and it became apparent quite quickly to me that she was also a Christian, which was fantastic. And so I shared my faith and said, hey, look, could I pray with you? Could I pray for you and the victim? And so we entered into what was really quite a special time with the family. And, I really felt God's presence through that moment. It was such an honour to be an instrument of God at that time as he spoke to the family and reassured them as only he can. It's been my experience that when God always shows up when we need him, even in those toughest of circumstances. Now, later in the week, whilst attending the funeral service, the family talked about how they'd been extremely comforted, knowing that through something so horrible, God had used me to act like an angel, these are their words, and care and guard over their loved one. Now, those words have not left me since, and I am incredibly humbled to know that God has used me in his work. As a Christian police officer, it's not just about serving the community, it's about making a real difference in people's lives, reaching out to people in a way that they would not necessarily expect of a policeman. As Christians, we all have opportunities to impact people's lives, maybe even transform them. It's about being bold in the knowledge that God's love reaches out in all those circumstances. Our amazing God can change people's lives through each one of us if we'll let him. Thanks, guys. You've been awesome. God bless.